Banksy is an England-based street artist, activist and filmmaker who keeps his identity and real name a secret. He uses this persuading him to showcase his political, social and economic views through art, which appears on walls, bridges, streets and anywhere it will be seen. His art began appearing around Bristol, which people believe is where he is from, in the early 90s, before his work began appearing all over the world and the rest of the UK in the 2000s. His work is known for conveying political, social and economic messages, which can be done without much criticism due to his anonymity. Over the holidays, a few pieces of street art began appearing around Norfolk and Suffolk. People believed these works could have been by Banksy. They were then later confirmed by the artist himself through Instagram with his short video titled A Great British Spraycation. These pieces reflect the areas they were created in, with some linking to his key messages such as the We're All in the Same Boat piece that appeared in Lowestoft. Other pieces that appeared were just general street art with the aims of brightening up these areas, like the people dancing on top of the bus shelter. However, not everybody liked these new works of art, so some were covered up with paint. Some were in the works of being restored, such as the sunbathing rat, due to the rat being a regular motif of Banksy's.
I was at a festival and he produced these little books. I think there were 2 or 3 of them. One was called Existentialism. They didn't have barcodes or anything, so I thought, they're just freebies and whatnot. So I took a wodge of them, just thinking they were giveaways and whatnot. And that's the first time I came across his work. Transpires that they weren't free. I felt a bit bad, but I guess that was part of Banksy's whole kind of tongue-in-cheek style. It's like, well, if I don't put a barcode on this, people are just going to take them perhaps, and it's kind of funny to see what happens. Like the way he plays things, I mean, there's elements of composition involved with it. There's a kind of political or a social perspective to it. Through the YBAs, I could see this direct lineage, and I like the way he just messed around with that stuff. Very situationist. So I'd already studied Guy Debord and the Situationists, and I looked up punk, but he did it really well. He did it with style and panache.
It's pretty cool. I think that's something different. We haven't seen many of them. We've seen the seagull one.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's good for town, yeah. It makes town look better. Need more of it, I think.
He's done lots of other sort of public intervention sort of stuff with Dismaland and whatnot. He's going, what am I going to do now? He's made a couple of films and whatnot, Exit Through the Gift Shop and all that gubbins. So he's not a static artist in that sense, which is quite nice. So he keeps you guessing a little bit about what's going on. But he rides quite a nice line between, like, probably entertaining himself, and making new stuff and doing stuff like the Dismaland stuff, books, films or whatever. But it's within it's within the scope of what we all know Banksy's work to be about. He doesn't stray too far away from that. I suppose he needs to, really. Yeah, love, hate, love. Sometimes you wake up and you really don't like a bit of work that you really liked a couple of weeks ago or whatever. The Team Robbo thing was really funny. Like, everyone hated on Banksy for a bit, and there's all sorts of stories and undercurrents behind that and how things coalesced as far as Team Robbo was concerned. I'm open to enough different avenues and genres of things that I'm happy to let that all slide. I'm not that purist, I guess, at the end of the day. I never have been. I know people that are, and they're cool. They're like the yardsticks of a culture.
We've seen the one in Nicholas Everett Park, by the bridge. We're all in the same boat.
That's really good. And the message is good.
Yeah, the message is good. Pity about the sand not being on this one. Yeah.
So we're off to find the next one now.
We're on a mission to just tick them off.
So we spoke to several people who've come just to see these.
Put it in perspective, I think it's from about 94 to 2004, that decade period. Banksy was the fastest growing, grossing artist since Pablo Picasso. He's not the richest, he's not like a Gerhard Rix or anything like that, or a Cy Twombly or whatever. It's meteoric. But he kind of made the most amount of money in that period of time that quickly since Pablo Picasso, who's the other end of the century, basically. It's what you can afford, I suppose, at the end of the day, as to whether it's worth the money. There's rumour that he kind of, he gives away a fair amount of his canvases and stuff to people. Say you've got a hardcore graffiti writer that's coming out of prison or something, he might be a friend or a friend of a friend or something, and he's allegedly quite altruistic in that sense, and he'll give away a piece that person can sell, get themselves back on their feet, get themselves back into a societal role.
To remember to pause and just look at them as bits of art as well as just photograph them.
He's a reflector. He's just taking elements of where we're at as a society and all of the things around us and putting them into humorous situations, you know, making people think. It's situationist, it's punk. Some are just jocular, you know, and some of them have a serious undertone, and some of them are overtly serious, and they're like, you know, they're dealing with a few situations that are close to his heart.
I think it's pretty cool personally, because you can sit there and just take pictures and stuff, really.
It isn't easy to find them, sir.
Yeah.
That was it. I'm actually only here to take a picture because I have a friend in the States who says, can I send her a picture?
Could delve deeper into a quasi-philosophical conversation about it, and there are all sorts of levels involved with that, but superficially, like, you can get something from it politically or socially or just on a humorous level. But they're pretty easy to get as a general rule. It's not difficult art really in that sense.
I think it's quite simple, doesn't really show anything, not like some of his other works. There's the one over there that's been covered up, but we've not seen any others on this coastline now. Especially for Galston, I don't think it gets as much tourism possibly as Yarmouth and Lowestoft, so, and certainly Norwich as well. If people are coming this way, they might come out this way to see them.
I've been doing quite a bit of mural work out in Yarmouth in particular. It's not the first stuff I've seen by him, you know, it just pops up everywhere.
That looks like mindless vandalism, that, doesn't it?
You know, as with the event of the Yarmouth situation at the moment, and you've got the council involved, and you know, they cover it up with a massive sheet of perspex, and there's this huge oxymoron involved.
Banksy's just brilliant, so yeah. we come all this way just to see them.
About a 4-hour journey down, haven't we?
If I lived just there, I think I just might be a bit fed up.
They might say that one thing is vandalism, but what is technically, by the rule of law, another piece of vandalism is preserved. You know, there's a massive oxymoron with that. I find that very funny that that's pointed out in such an overt way, and that people don't seem to get it. Or if they do, they just don't care.
After conducting these interviews, I now have a greater understanding of how Banksy's influence has spread in the areas where he chose to display his art. As a result of his influence, more street artists are flocking to these areas, along with tourists whose sole reason for being there is the Banksy Spraycation Trail. Whilst out collecting people's real opinions on his art, I noticed the amount of people solely there for his artwork, and some had travelled hours just to get a glimpse of these pieces. Overall, people thought his art was good, but there were a few who were either not fazed by it or did not like certain pieces in this collection. Surprisingly, the people who were huge fans of his art were outside of the expected target audience, so this just shows how much his influence has spread recently due to his increase in popularity again. I wanted to get the local tourist officers' opinions on Banksy's art and how it has affected their tourism, but I could not contact anyone. They did give a few statements to the BBC, saying that they are in the works of restoring some of the pieces and are preventing further damage to the rest by protecting them with UV stabilised polycarbonate to prevent fading and wear to the artworks. Along with this, the BBC said that the council thanked Banksy for all the wonderful artwork and said it was continuing to celebrate his gifts to the town.